This lesson is going to be looking at identifying the domain and the range of a function. As you recall from the vocabulary portion of the lesson, the domain is another word for the input or the x value, and the range is another name for the output or the y value. So as you recall from the vocabulary portion of this lesson, the domain is another word for the input or the x value. So from this mapping, we are identifying the domain or identifying the inputs. So we are literally just making a list of our inputs. So our domain is 2, 3, 4, and 7. Our range is another name for the output value. So we are just making a list of our output values. 1, 2, 3, and 6. And state the rule of the function. The rule of the function is what are we doing to the input to get the output. And if you notice, we are taking the input values and our output that they're connected to is 1 less. So our rule would be n minus 1. Same thing on the graph. Remember, an ordered pair is written x then y inside parentheses. So our axes are labeled on our picture. So this point here is 1, 4. This point is 2, 3. My commas aren't coming out very well. And then this point is 6, 5. The domain is the x or the inputs, so our domain is all of our x values, so 1, 2, and 6. Our range is our output or our y values, so that's 3, 4, and 5. Sometimes you might see something like this where you're given the function rule, in this case 2x plus 5, and you might be given the input. So to make this easy, let's say our input was 0 and 1. In order to find the output that they correspond to, you'd have to take the input value you're given, which is the x, remember, x is input, y is output, and you have to substitute in the value and evaluate the function rule. So I have the function rule 2x plus 5, so if my first input or x is 0, it would be 2 times 0 plus 5. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 5 is 5. So my first output, or my first range would be 5. I want to do the same thing for my other input. My other input is 1, so I'd have 2 times 1 plus 5. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 5, which would give me 7. So my output or my range would be 7 and 5 if my input or my domain are 0 and 1.